Hey Rifters, how's it going? Solo episode again. Alan Lee will not be here, and neither will the Nightwing to my Batman, Victor Pacheco. Today I'm by myself. A couple things. You could still book me on Cameo right now. I think I have about 10 cameos left, and then I'm gonna take a break. Um, I'm gonna be in the American Comedy Club with TJ Miller March 2nd through the 5th. TJ's filming his new special, so it's going to be great. We're also doing a special appearance at the Rec Room Tuesday, February 28th. This episode will come out the 27th, I believe. So if you're listening, you can buy tickets if they're not sold out at www.recroomhb.com. I will be at the Rec Room again with Pablo Francisco on April 14th. Tickets, same link, www.recroomhb.com. Okay, we got a great show today. My guest, you've seen her on Mad TV, the sitcom Big Day, and she is now on the new sitcom called Night Court. Stephnie Weir will be here, and it'll be fun to talk to her. All right, guys, subscribe, rate, review, and as always, tell a friend, and we'll talk to you later.
You're listening to Reza Riffs with Keith Reza and Alan Lee, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Hey,
Hi,
Stephanie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Now, before we start, I wanted to say I'm going to try really hard to say your name right, but my sister's name is Stephanie.
Oh, I don't even hear a difference. It's so fine. Don't even.
So, like, I was like, oh, like it's usually like I'm pretty good with names, but so I was like, oh God. So, like, I was so
Oh, no,
self-conscious
no.
all week. I'm like,
Don't be. I can't even hear the difference. It's so quick. I blame my dad for that. He left the A out of my name on purpose. We're from West Texas, so it was like Stephanie. And yeah, it rolls right off the tongue that way, but don't even sweat it.
uh, where in Texas are you from?
I was born and raised in Odessa, Texas, which is West Texas, kind of the little armpit there. It's where Friday Night Lights took place. That's where the book was written, and the series was based on my hometown there. Big football, oil culture,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Yeah.
I was born in San Antonio, but
Oh,
I moved with my mom to California when I was 2. So I still have the Texas accent, but like I don't, I don't know anything about Texas.
how funny. So you really soaked it up in
Yeah,
those 2 years that you were there.
I know. Well, because like all my family, is still in Texas, so like they'll call
Okay.
me happy birthday and stuff. But
My brother lives in Junction, which is about 2 hours outside of San Antonio. It's right on the Llano River, and so we have a family reunion there every year and fly into San Antonio usually. So
yeah,
yeah.
I did stand up in San Antonio once. Instead of visiting my family and friends, I went to go. I wanted to see the Alamo or something. I was like, this is
Mhm.
where Ozzy peed or something. I don't know, but I didn't know there's like a huge story behind it. You know what I mean?
Oh, behind the Alamo. Oh,
Yeah,
you really are not Texan at all. You
I
are a
know. That's what I'm
pure
trying to tell you.
Californian. Hey, I respect that. That's all
Like I'm a
right.
disgrace to Texans.
Right. You know, I think something happened here at the Alamo. I'm not sure. People seem to want to go and hang out there.
Yeah, I just wanted to go to meet Davy Crockett, and I didn't realize he died 200 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, you missed your window.
Well, thank you so much for saying yes. I've been getting a lot of no's lately, so thank you so much for
Oh,
saying
you're welcome.
yes.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. And it's Reza, right? Or is that
Yeah,
right?
Ray,
Reza.
it's Reza. Yeah,
Reza. Okay. Yeah.
yeah. It's one of those names where like it's spelled with an E, but it's said with an A. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
just
what's the story behind your name? Are you named after somebody or?
Reza's my stepdad's last name, and
Oh,
I took it for comedy because my legal name, there's already a comedian with my legal name, and he was way funnier, so I didn't want to like,
that's a really good move. That's such a good move.
yeah,
If you just acknowledge you're not the funniest, I'm going to go a different route. That's
yeah. I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna be Keith Reza. Nobody's as funny as Keith Reza, but Keith Johnson. Um, so I wanted to like talk to you from the beginning, and then we'll like move up forward. So I know you did Second City, and I
Mhm.
know that you had an audition for SNL and Mad TV, but the first time you didn't go to the Mad TV audition.
That's correct. Yes, that's right. I really had my mindset on that I was going to go to New York. I wanted to be on SNL. And then I didn't get cast. I think I auditioned twice and didn't get cast either times. And in between there, Mad TV had come, and I don't know why. I just did not want to be in California. I think it had more to do with New York seemed to be the place to go at the time. UCB had just kind of started opened up their theater there, and we had friends there and stuff. So I was very resistant to coming here, and finally did, and I've just loved it so much. I'm so glad I did it.
Now, how were the like auditions? Were they similar, or were they, because I know like it's kind of, you have to have
Right.
characters and stuff.
That part of it was very similar in kind of what you're bringing to the table. And I didn't really do impersonations so much. That was really where I would fall short in my auditions, because you're trying to drum up something, and you're kind of banging your head because you feel like you need to have three impersonations and three characters or whatever. So it's very similar on that. I think the Mad TV one, if I recall, was more character driven. I think I just did characters. The process of it was very different. SNL was much more. It was you know, obviously the stakes felt higher. There were a lot more comedians there. There's a process that takes, all afternoon. You're kind of stuck in this dressing room for hours on end, and you don't know when they're going to knock on your door and kind of call you out to, walk out and do your audition. And I think that's part of the process, is the stress level is really high, probably to see how you hold up under those conditions, because you can hear in those dressing rooms your competition kind of working on their material next to you, and it can be really deflating if you're laughing along with them instead
Yeah.
of focusing on your own stuff. So I think from what I've heard, it felt like a bit more of a head game there. The SNL, the Mad TV audition, it was really lovely. And it's different. You're staying at a hotel, and people are picking you up, and you're going to different networks, kind of driving, or not networks, but you audition for the studio, and then you audition for the network. And we were with the producers and the people of Mad TV who were really wanting you to succeed. And so I have a very sweet memories from that audition. It was very supportive. And I would say too, even our process of picking sketches for Mad TV was not maybe as cutthroat as what I've heard at SNL,
Yeah.
just because it's a live show, and I think the stakes are just higher. But anyway, those were the differences I kind of saw as I went through both of those experiences.
Well, it's also one of those things that you followed your heart, because you said the first time you just felt like, I don't want to do it, so you didn't go. And then the second time you went and you got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the showrunner was a former Second City alumni, and he had seen me on stage, and he really wanted me to come. And then I had kind of turned it down. I didn't get on the plane for that audition. Something in me was just like, it wasn't the right time, and I just wasn't feeling it. And I thought, well, I've kind of burned that bridge. They'll never come back and ask
Yeah.
me. But they did the following year. And Dick Blasucci took me to breakfast and was really like, listen, we'd really love to have you. He was just so sweet. I couldn't really deny all the goodwill that was kind of being put in my lap to just go and try it out and see what it was like. And I just have so many great memories. It was a great experience. Yeah.
Now, when you got Mad TV, did you know it was going to be as huge as it became? Or like, did you just think, oh, it's going to be a couple seasons?
Um, it had been on a while, and it was kind of like the redheaded stepchild of sketch comedy. It always
Yeah.
paled in comparison to SNL, and it was always kind of flew under the radar. Um, and so when I went and I got picked up right away, I feel like I wasn't even finished with my first like 9 episodes before they said, you know what, we're going to pick you up for the second, tier or whatever for next year. So I had job security right away. And the show itself had been picked up for like 2 or 3 years, which is really unusual for any show to know that you have that kind of job security. So once I kind of got locked in and it was going, it never felt like it was a big hit kind of a show, because I just felt like we were always kind of unnoticed in comparison to SNL. But I hear all the time people who really enjoyed it, especially maybe of your age, people in their, who maybe late 20s, early 30s now, who grew up watching it and stuff, and it had an impact on them. So it was important to them. So to answer your question, I don't think it ever really registered in my mind as like a big smash thing, a big. It was always kind of in line with me, which is like, kind of calm waters, just a pretty level, versus high peaks and crashing. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it was almost just like a job, like a 9 to 5 job, that a really good, really fun 9 to 5 job that you got perks at the airport. Because when you would, every time I flew, somebody would either know me or recognize me or upgrade me or whatever. And that was super fun. So yeah.
That's always like the best part, when people recognize you, like, because like I'm a stand-up comedian, so like my following's very culture-ish, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So like whenever 1 out of 100 people, or 1 out of 1,000, that's more realistic, they recognize me, I'm like, oh yeah, great, I get free Arby's. I don't know.
Right. Oh, totally. And it suits me perfectly. I always enjoy it when people come up to me and say hi, but it's not an overwhelming part of my life.
Yeah. Well, see, because then Mad TV like went off the air, and then they rebooted it with I want to say 2015. And there's a point to this story, because I auditioned for that one, and while I was doing research, I was watching all the old sketches, where like, because I didn't really know what Mad TV was when in that time. I remember watching your Dot character, and I thought it was funny how you said, yeah, sometimes we drink NyQuil for dinner. I thought that was the funniest joke I've ever heard.
Oh my gosh, I don't even remember that. Yeah, that was I left Mad TV in 2006, and then it went on. And it's funny, when you're not on the show, you have no idea what's going on or what is happening. And I remember hearing that they were rebooting it, but I never saw it or anything. But I'm taking it you didn't get cast. You're okay with that?
Well, no, because see, here's the thing: is like, I love stand up, and it's a sketch comedy show. And then when they did the auditions, it was so weird, because they were auditioning for stand up. They were auditioning stand up comedians, and I'm more just stand up. I don't have like impersonations in my stand up.
Yeah.
So I knew I wasn't going to get it. But like, I used to tour with Norm Macdonald, and Norm told me he got SNL just by doing stand up. So I thought maybe if I did that approach, it didn't work out for me. That's what I'm saying.
I think it's a matter of finding how they can use you in your particular point of view in the context of sketch. So I think it probably would have been. I mean, what character would you have done? You probably would have felt really wrong and disingenuous standing up there trying to do a baby character.
I can't even, like, that's the thing, like, because like when people put you on the spot, you're like, I just can't do it. And I think that's one of those things you have to be able to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I could write the jokes, and I could probably write sketches, but I don't know if I could ever perform it.
Interesting. Okay. So you play them out, and you can see them playing out in your head. But you're not in it when you're playing it.
Maybe that's a lack of confidence. I don't know, but I enjoy writing and stuff. And I wanted to ask you, like, what was the difference between like sketch writing, because I also know you wrote for sitcoms too, and that's like 2 different books. You know what I mean?
I always kind of hear whenever I'm writing comedy, it almost sounds like a song. There's like a rhythm to it. And, it sketch is obviously just a shorter song, but there's a feeling of like an arc to the scene and you're headed for that out. And then in sitcoms, you've got, a longer tune to play and you're aiming towards, these act breaks and stuff. So that's kind of how I approach it when I'm writing it. And then obviously when you're writing sketch, you can be really broad, and then reeling it in for sitcoms, trying to make it a little more grounded.
Yeah, because like for sitcoms, it's more. I mean, I know humor is a big part, but it's also more about character. Where sketch, it's like let's try and get as many jokes as we can.
Yeah, I think you get crossover in both. I would say, I think one of the biggest complaints I'm hearing about sitcoms now is that it's like the meter is like there's got to be a punchline every other line almost, which
Yeah,
is kind of disingenuous to the way we actually talk and function. But funny is a big part of the sitcom thing too. I think in developing it, that's been the hard part. Is like it feels like people want to service the jokes more than they want to service the characters sometimes, and that can be to the detriment of the sitcom. At least that's what I'm feeling when I'm watching sitcoms. They don't grab me as much as like, I love Everybody Loves Raymond. I love Frasier and Cheers, and those seem to have a little bit more character focus than joke focus, I would say.
now you say you like those shows. For example, when you watch them, do you ever think to yourself, "Oh, I could be in those type of roles"? Like, did you ever try audition
Um,
for those?
well, those were a little before my time, but I did. Let's see, I was on a multicam recently called Happy Together. It was only, I think, half a season. It had Damon Wayans Jr. in it and Amber Stevens West. And that format I absolutely love, and that's kind of the mark I want to hit. So absolutely, it's kind of my dream to be in a multicam sitcom. I like a single camera, but multicam is really where I want to be in front of a live audience. Yeah.
Was the Big Day multi-camera ones?
No, Big Day was a single camera. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I know you worked with the great Kurt Fuller, who I love. Like,
Yes, I did. Yeah, that's been a while ago. Yeah, he's very funny.
yeah, I think he's one of the best character actors of all time. And like, I interviewed him because like for 6 years I was tweeting him, "Hey, will you do my podcast?" He would say no, and then I would tweet him again. He would say no, and then after like 400 text messages, he's like, "All right, fine, I'll do it just to get it over with." And then when he did it, he sent me an email. He's like, "I should have said yes the first time."
Aw, that's
So
nice.
yeah, so
Yeah, I would agree with you. He is so funny and so real, and yet is such a great character actor because you always feel like he's never too broad. You feel like the kind of person he's playing. I've met that
yeah.
guy. I know that guy, and I think that's hard. That's a really hard thing to do, to be so grounded in your work that way in comedy.
Yeah. And then I heard like how you got your start in comedy was an ex-boyfriend took you to an improv class. Is that true?
Yeah, yeah, it kind of is. It's an ex-husband actually, and we met
Whoa.
in yeah, we met in Odessa. He moved there from New York for some reason, and took a theater class, and that's where we met. And then when we moved to Chicago together, he's the one that signed us up for an improv class because the acting classes were all full. I think when we were, or maybe too expensive, and this was like we had no money. This was in our budget, and so yeah, Sean Benjamin, he signed us up, and it really, it really spoke to both of us. We improvised for a long time. Yeah, still very good friends with the ex-husband. He's a great guy.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm not friends with any of my ex-husbands, but
Well, it's all you got to want to spare the relationship.
and then I wanted to ask, you talked a little about Happy Together, but you also wrote for that show too.
Yeah, I did. I had written on The Millers, which was a multicam that had Will Arnett on it. It was, I think, 2 seasons it had. And I met a writer there, Austin Earl, who we were in the writer's room together, and he's the one who brought me into that show. He's like, I really want you to play this mom, and I would really love for you to be on the writing staff. So that was like a dream job, just because I was only working part-time in the writer's room,
Right.
because I also had to be on stage. And so I was getting to do a little of both. And it was one of my favorite jobs. It was great.
Did it ever like irritate you if like something you wrote and then like you'd film it and then like they say, all right, cut, and then all the writers go in their circle, and since you're acting, you can't go in the circle?
Yes. Oh, it was so interesting because, you wear two hats. And as an actor, I'd be like, oh, I've got this great idea. I got a great line. And I'd be sitting on it, and I would think it was so genius. And then I'd finally work my way over there and I'd pitch this line. And it was like, oh, thanks, Steph. Okay, we'll think about it. And, maybe not this take, but eventually. And I was clearly no longer in the writer's room. I was one of those actors who had great ideas, which are often not so great. So yeah, it was very eye-opening, but it was a great lesson in kind of like staying in your lane a little bit. It's really important, so
Yeah.
yeah, but no, I was iced out. I was
Yeah.
iced out of the writer video village bubble.
I just think it would be so funny if you're like doing a line and then they change it on you and then you're thinking, wait a second, I didn't write that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally. There's lots of things. And I'm sure it was difficult for them too. Like because when you're in a writer's room, you're not writing for yourself.
No.
So if it gets cut, it's like, oh, that actress probably can't do that, or it wouldn't be funny coming out of her, or for a million reasons, not, having to do anything with the acting. But when you're sitting there, I think they were hesitant to say no. It was just probably a little stickier for them, but it all worked out. We're all still friends. So
Yeah.
it was good.
And then the comedians came around, which was with Billy Crystal,
Mhm.
and that show was great, but I was so surprised that it only lasted one season because I thought like that was
We
maybe it was
were
before its
surprised.
time.
We were surprised too. We thought it was a really good show. I love that show. It was a small cast, and we had so much fun. There was a lot of room for improvisation, which is just my dream. I love being in that place where it's organic to be able to improvise. It doesn't feel forced or whatever, and you're working with people who really want you to improvise and are using some of the stuff that you're doing. And that was a great time. I don't really know. I don't know, the president of FX at the time was a really big fan of the show. So it just didn't either pull its numbers for what it cost to make, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, that was a really fun time. I love that show.
I'm sure you get asked this a lot, but what was it like working with the great Billy Crystal?
He was great. He's funny, very professional, very serious. He was not like a crack everybody up, on set kind of guy, really. He's more about like, let's get our work done, let's do it really well. And plus it's his face was, fronting the show, and and it was kind of like him playing himself. So I'm sure he was walking a fine line on like, what do I want to do? What do I, want to say? So maybe he's not always as serious in the projects he goes into, but it was a real learning experience watching him work. I mean, he's a master. And we had Mel Brooks on the show, and I remember coming in and I knew he was going to be in the show, I had heard, and then we came in for the table read, and I saw that his nameplate was right next to my nameplate.
Oh my God.
I know, it was so good. And oh, what a lovely human. He was so gracious, so warm, and for some, I don't know, just no ego, and iconic, hilarious, just all those things that you dream of. And sometimes it's not always, I don't know if you've experienced this, but sometimes it's not always great to meet the celebrities that you've idolized,
Yeah.
just because they can't fulfill your expectations. It's impossible. But man, he just was a good egg. He was delightful. I loved him.
Well, see, I think that that's easier because you're right. They do say that, but I think if you're in comedy or maybe in even acting and stuff, it's easier to get past that because in a way, your heart is very similar. You know what I mean? So
I
for
agree.
example, I have Asperger's syndrome, so I can't talk to normal people or whatever, but I could talk to people in my field because, comedy's in my heart, comedy's in your heart, so I click with you. You know
So
what I
when
mean?
you say you can't talk to people, if you're at the grocery store, you wouldn't be able to strike up a conversation with the person in line behind you, or
Oh, it's terrible. Like I used to,
really?
yeah, I used to be a cashier at a grocery store, and like, it's so robotic because you'd be like, "Hi, how are you?" And this guy would be like, "Oh, I'm terrible. I just saw my wife cheat on me." I'd be like, "Oh, do you have a Ralph's card?" You
Oh
know what I
no.
mean? But like, it's just so,
Well, that would be hard to navigate, I'm
yeah.
sure. I love the checkout line.
Oh, dude.
I do, and I love my grocery store, and I don't know, I have the best conversations at the checkout line. There was just a gentleman in front of me with a bunch of groceries who was clearly he was going to be walking home with his groceries. I heard him telling the cashier, and I ended up giving him a ride home, and we had the best conversation. It was really, I don't know, my husband's always,
That's very nice and scary of you. What if he
oh,
was like,
he was wearing socks with flip-flops. So I was
oh,
like, I
okay.
can clearly outrun the guy.
Okay.
Um, he and he was really funny. He was like, he kind of struck up a conversation with me in line. He looked at my basket and he was like, "You're clearly going to live longer than I am." Just because I had fruits and vegetables, and he had like eggs and hot dogs and stuff, and it made me laugh. And I don't know. I feel like I might. I just read an article too that in Europe they have a designated chit chat checkout. So for older people who really want to have a conversation at the grocery store, you go to that line because there's nothing worse than when you're in a hurry and somebody is really shooting the shit and you're trying to get
Yeah.
out. But I was like, that is so awesome. A designated line for people who just have all day to kill and want to go in the chit chat checkout.
I think this is a good time to thank you for the ride home, by the way.
Oh, I didn't know whether we were going to say if it was a secret, if we were keeping it.
I
You're
mean,
so welcome. Get some
yeah,
regular shoes, buddy. You don't need to be
yeah.
wearing socks with those flip flops.
I'm so glad you recognized I was wearing socks. But yeah, so like I feel like it's easier to talk to people in my field, but I get it where you shouldn't meet your idols because I once met Christopher Lloyd in a bathroom, and it was just so awkward because like I asked him the stupidest thing, and I was like, "Hey, you're Christopher Lloyd," like he knows he's Christopher Lloyd, and he's like, "Yeah," and oh, I was like, I had a question. In Roger Rabbit, you took a cartoon shoe and you put him in the dip. And I was just always curious, like, what did that shoe ever do to you? And he just looked at me because, like, I'm trying to be funny, like that's a funny question. He just looked at me. He's like, "I'm peeing, man."
Yeah, I feel like bathroom is off limits. Write that
I
down. Write
learned
that
that the
down.
hard way, though.
Yes, you only make that mistake once. Bathroom is off limits. I think right as somebody's taking a bite of food, you're like, okay, no, not a good time.
Yeah,
Oh, that's really funny. So he just peeing, man.
but that's a unique question. I feel I don't know.
Oh, totally, totally. Yeah, maybe in other circumstances, if you'd caught him, just sitting at the airport, killing time, that would have been a great conversation starter.
Now, when you do acting and stuff, do you ever like rewrite your lines that you have like say if it's a different writer, like do you ever take your dialogue and rewrite your own dialogue to suit you?
No, no, never. I wouldn't do that unless they had told me, say it however, feel free to play with it or whatever. I would no.
Yeah, because that's
No.
like a big no-no for the writers, right? They get upset.
They can, some can. I think, I was working on a million little things, and that is very, there's not a whole lot of room to like play with the dialogue, and they don't want you to because especially the character I was doing had a lot of important exposition, and um, uh, there are certain words like you just don't want to hear repetitively, and it's structure, so it's important to memorize it the way it is. And so I would get sometimes feedback of like, you say have here, and so don't say it again down here. We want you to actually use had, and it seems really like splitting hairs, but you hear it on the ear when you're watching
Right.
television like that. So in that, no room to play. In the comedians, totally, I could fudge with all of those lines just to tweak it, and nobody cared as long as I was getting the sentiment across. But no, as a hard and fast rule, I always try to do it as it's written until they tell me, or until they change it or say I can.
Now, this might be a strange question for you, and I do my research and I like to like watch everything I can so I could have questions, but I couldn't find this one, but I thought your character name was hilarious. On Street Riffs, it says you were Hooker Mentor.
Mm,
Like,
I don't remember Street Riffs. What
oh
what
yeah.
show was this? What was this?
I just found it and it said Stephanie played the character of Hooker Mentor on Street Riffs. And I was like, oh, that's a funny character.
I don't remember being on a show called Street Riffs. I don't
Oh,
even know what that is.
oh,
Okay, now I gotta look it up. Hold on.
oh, okay, you're gonna IMDb or something.
I'm gonna have to just see. What is Street Riffs? It must have been something. I've done a lot of stuff. And now having kids, they'll remind you of things that you did
Oh,
yeah, that you're like, know,
that's gotta
maybe
be.
not, you're right. Maybe Street Riffs.
Uh,
Hmm.
it's either gonna be the greatest story ever or
Yeah, maybe you know what, I tell you, if it's worth talking about, I'll let you know. I don't want to eat up all your time trying to figure out what jobs I've done in the past.
it's like one of those Roger Rabbit questions.
Oh, right. Oh gosh, I'm not even finding a show called Street Riffs, or maybe
Okay.
All right. Well,
Did you,
I can't answer that one. Whatever, if I was a hooker mentor, I bet I gave it 110%. I
yeah,
probably,
yeah. I was just gonna say that's just such a funny character name because you know, a mentor to a hooker. I don't know.
yeah, just taking some young woman much prettier than I am under my wing, giving her the tips of like, yeah, you don't want to approach that car,
Yeah.
you go for the
Oh,
car with matching wheels.
yeah. Always go for the limousines. I don't know.
The limousines.
And so when I wanted to ask you about Fist Fight. When you got that script, were you rooting for Ice Cube or Charlie Day?
Oh, I don't remember which one I was rooting for. I don't feel like I came away really, probably, yeah, maybe Charlie Day, I guess. Since he wrote it, maybe that that was who I was rooting for. Um, yeah, a director who directed The Comedians,
Uh-huh.
directed that movie, and yeah, had asked me to do it. And so I'm going to be really honest. I may not have fully read the script prior.
Did you
If
just
I'm,
read your part and be like, all right, that's enough?
I may have been like secretary. I think I got the school secretary. I think I know
Yeah.
what her role is here. So I'm kidding. Of course I read
No,
it.
I told because like I just did a movie where it was terrible, but like I didn't read the whole script and I just read
Uh,
my scenes.
uh-huh.
I was like, I got this. So when I'm filming it, it took like I don't know 4 or 5 days to film just one scene, and I could already tell this is going to be terrible. You know what I
Oh
mean?
no. Oh
It's-
no.
I
Was
had
this
fun. I had fun doing it. Don't get me wrong,
mhm.
but I could tell it's like one of those things I don't really need to read the whole script.
What role did you play?
I played a father priest who dies.
Oh,
Yeah.
was this like a
It's like a
horror
comedy
movie?
horror thing. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Did you get to have a gruesome death?
I choke on water and like the water like explodes my skin because like the water was like possessed water or something.
Oh my
It,
goodness.
yeah, it's but like what it's one of those horror comedy things where they try to take horror and make funny out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. I know that can be very funny. I hope you're wrong. I hope this turns out to be a
My
really,
big break.
yeah, I hope it's like everybody's talking about that priest who drinks the water and then
Yeah.
did you
If like
become possessed? It just killed you right away.
no, it took me a couple minutes to kill me, but like, I had to act like I was choking or whatever, and then they CGI'd it or whatever. But
Oh, fun. Oh, that'll be cool. Who
it,
knows, right?
I'll invite you to the premiere. We could experience the
Oh,
rage together.
oh, perfect. I can't wait. I can't wait.
Uh, Stephanie, I have two more questions. I want to respect your time. I wanted to ask, how did you come up with the character of Anna Nicole Smith? Because it was so spot on. You know what I mean?
This is interesting. She and I born the exact same day
Oh my God.
in Texas. She was from like I think it was called Texaco. I think was her hometown, and I'm not a small town somewhere. So the dialect just came really natural to me. And again, impersonations are not my thing. And I can't remember if somebody, she was really popular at the time. She had her reality show. So we parodied every reality show. And so I think someone wrote a parody and cast me in it, knowing that was from Texas. And just kind of coincidentally, I could totally do her thing and was able to kind of nail it. Um, and that was really how that happened. And I'll say I felt guilty the entire time I was doing it because she was such a tragic figure, even at the time. It's hard to parody something that is wilder than what you're writing. Her, stuff that she was doing was really off the charts and kind of sad. But yeah, there was an instance where we were at like the Billboard Awards or something,
Mhm.
and Mad TV was there doing some bits and stuff that year, and I was dressed as Anna Nicole, and they came to me and they said, Anna Nicole is actually here. We would love for you to meet in the hallway, pass each other.
Oh my
And
God.
I know, and I was like, absolutely not. This woman is going to punch me in the face, and then I'm gonna have to fight back,
Yeah.
and that's not going to be pretty. I was like, no, I do not want to do this on live TV. Absolutely not, because she was also kind of unhinged, and you just never knew what to expect. And she had a right to be mad. We were making fun of her.
Right.
So anyway, so yeah, that's yeah.
Have you like you say making fun of her, like I agree, but you're also making fun of her in a good way. You know what I mean? So
Mm,
like, because they say
mm.
that imitation is like the most common form of flattery or
Not
something.
not
Yeah.
this. I'm gonna argue that like no, there was no nothing really empowering or good happening, and we were, I don't know, it was like watching a train wreck and then piling on to making fun of it. And it was also, at the time things were a little mean spirited, I have to say. That was
Oh,
when
right.
it was just, I don't know, the era. It was like even American Idol, when you watch the old American Idol, how mean they were to the people auditioning,
Yeah.
for daring to get up there and try to pursue their passion. It was just so mean and hateful. And we were like, I don't know, it felt like medieval times where we were all like, yeah, get her, kill her, make fun of her.
And
And
now they give you a lollipop when they hurt your feelings.
yes, I would prefer, like, yeah, why kick someone when they're down? So no, I would not say that it was any form of flattery. I mean, maybe she thought it was in
Yeah.
some way. I hope so. I hope so.
Well, it is what it is. That's what I like to say.
Yep. I feel like there's somebody else who says that.
Uh,
Yeah. Mm.
and then my last question for you was how do you see like your humor when you do comedy and acting? How do you see that changes from when you first started from now?
Um, Let's see. I think when I first started, I didn't realize that my the unique way that I did things was what was going to get me far.
Mm,
And so there was a lot of trying to uh, do what I thought other people wanted, meaning like when you went into an audition, try to read it or perform it in the way that I would think they would want to see it. Whether it was like someone who was currently on television and was, there was a time where, in every script you read, there would be a character name, and it would be like, think Janine Garofalo, or, think Wendy Malick, or, whatever it would be. And so you would, instead of just bringing what you had to the part, you would try to do it like they might do it.
right.
And then once you kind of realize, no, wait, the only thing that's going to set me apart and feel genuine is just if I put myself into what I'm doing, give my take on it. If they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. But it's going to feel better for everybody all the way around to approach everything that way.
That's very interesting because like I write scripts, I haven't sold anything, but like I have like three movies I've written. And I how I learned script writing was I'd read other scripts, and I know
Sure.
old scripts would be like, oh, think of John Cusack style or something. So
Mhm.
like when I write, I would write with my favorite actors in mind, not necessarily that they're gonna say yes, but just write with them in mind without putting them in the descriptions.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I've done that as well. Where when you're putting it on the page, it helps to have a voice in your, that you're writing for a person. And in some of the pilots that I've written that were made, I loved it when someone came in and was just the opposite of what I thought I had written, and they would add a whole other layer to the character. And I don't know, it leaves a little room for. I appreciate that they didn't do what I said on the page, which was like, do it like this person. They just did their own take on it, and it was just as good, and a lot of times even better, and they would get the job. And so as long as you have a little room in your mind when you get to casting, that it could go a lot of different ways. I don't see anything wrong with writing that way.
Yeah. Now, Stephanie, I know I said I only had one more question, but I actually have one more. May I please ask it?
No, we
Okay.
are done. I'm
All
kidding.
right. Oh, okay. I
I'm
wanted to
kidding.
respect your
I'm
time.
sorry. No, 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 no.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
so
Yes, of course.
okay. So it says you were on Unsolved Mysteries. I wanted to ask,
Yeah.
like, what was that about?
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's a big long story.
Oh, okay.
It's a good one though. There was a murder in my hometown of Odessa. It was called the Burning Businessman. I mean, it was a guy who killed his boss and burnt him, and then I guess, stole his pickup and stuff. Okay, so that happened in Odessa. My dad was on the deputy sheriff's department, and they had reached out about this, and he ended up kind of being the liaison for them pursuing this story and shooting it in our town. And my dad, who was a jack of all trades, he was an actor, he did all kinds of stuff. He talked them into letting him be one of the producers. And so he supplied the location, he found the pickup, he rented them his motorhomes. He was also a car salesman, and he owned a junkyard, and this guy just did everything. And he said, if I can be in it too. And so they cast him as one of the characters, one of the witnesses. And then my then husband and I auditioned for two of the characters and got it.
Nice.
And I know. And I mean, at the time, it paid a lot of money. And somehow my dad got my ex-husband on as like a producing assistant. So we were making, hundreds of dollars a day at a time when we really needed it. I was probably 22 or something. And got my first acting job, got to join Taft-Hartley, and shoot in our hometown. And that was kind of the money that got me and my husband, we were in between spots, Chicago and all these places, and we had some money to finally get back to Chicago. And you can still see it today. It's called The Burning Businessman was the name of that episode. And if you Google it, like the episode will come up. And I think it's like the second story in there, and you can see my
Oh,
fine acting work. And I look in the camera, and my brother, at the time videotaped the episode and then cut together a meme, what it would be a meme today of me just looking in the camera over and over again. That was my first acting job, a television acting job. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, where can the folks at home follow and support you at?
I have I'm at Stephnie without an A on Instagram, that I rarely attend to. And my husband and I are on Weird Ass Comedy on Twitter, and we're doing shows in Austin. And yeah, that's kind of what's up with us now.
Awesome. Well, Stephnie, thank you so much for saying yes, and it was an honor interviewing you, and I hope to interview you again someday.
I hope so. Good luck to you. Take care. Nice to meet you.
Have a great day.
You too, hon. Bye.
Bye. All right. Cool.
You're listening to Reza Riffs with Keith Reza and Alan Lee, right here on LA Talk Radio.